Good morning. It's a pleasure to be back with you once again. I want to start my talk today by asking you a question, and that question is, are you too smart for your own good? Are you too smart for your own good? Do you know what I mean by that? I mean, like, is your intellect, your reason, your logic, all that stuff that you think you know, your storehouse of knowledge, could it actually be interfering with you achieving your good? Could it actually be getting in the way of what you want to have, do, or be in life? It's quite possible. Happened for me a lot in my life and continues to. Let me give you a little example of what I'm talking about. I'll start with a story here. A number of years ago, I was planning a trip to Sedona, Arizona. And I needed a sleeping bag for this particular trip. Some people on the trip said, let's spend the night out under the stars one night. I said, okay, I don't usually do that, but sure. I'll go get a sleeping bag because I don't own one. So that was on my to-do list, something I needed to have. Well, one night I was going to my favorite Italian restaurant to eat, and I was really surprised when I got there to see that it had been closed down. Not just it was closed for the evening. I think the health department must have gone in there because it was just suddenly out of business, and it had been there for a long time. It was really my favorite place. So, you know, I had my taste buds all set for Italian, and there was no Italian. So, you know how that is. So I thought, I need to find another Italian restaurant. I can't just switch to Mexican all of a sudden. So, and I knew that just down the street there was an Olive Garden. I said, well, that's okay. I've had some good meals at Olive Garden. I love their salad. So I'll go to Olive Garden instead of this particular place. So I go to the Olive Garden, and I get seated, and I'm sitting at my table, and I look out the window, and I see that across the parking lot is an Oshman's sporting goods store. And I thought, hey, this is the divine flow. This is perfect. This is a coincidence. I need to be going to Oshman's to get my sleeping bag, and how convenient it'll be. I'll just walk across the parking lot and go get my sleeping bag. That's what one part of me said. But then another little part of my mind said, Steve, you know, Oshman's is the most expensive sporting goods store in town. But then another part of my mind said, yeah, but they might be having a sale. Might be having a sale. But then another part of my mind said, Steve, you know, even a sale price at Oshman's is going to be more than it would cost to just get a sleeping bag at Target. I gave in. I gave in to my logic and my reason, or whatever, their fear, whatever that was. And instead of just walking across the parking lot to Oshman's, I drove 5 miles out of my way, went to Target, and bought a sleeping bag. Now, I was okay with that purchase. You know, I said, hey, it's a pretty good bag, good price, I'm okay. I go to work the next day, and somebody comes up to me and says, hey, Steve, what did you do last night? And I said, well, I was eating at an Italian restaurant, and I needed a sleeping bag, and there was an Oshman's, but I didn't go there. Instead, I just went to Target and bought one. And they said, you didn't go to Oshman's? I said, no, I went to Target and got a sleeping bag. And they said, oh, you should have gone to Oshman's. Really, why? Well, yesterday was their one-day-a-year giant super sale. And they had a newspaper with them. And they said, see? And they handed it out. There was this giant ad with all these great sleeping bags, you know, fantastic prices. I could have gotten, you know, a bag that's twice as nice for half the price. But I missed it because I was too smart for my own good. Now, that's just a little bitty story. So what? I spent, you know, more than I needed to in a sleeping bag, or didn't get the quality of bag I could have gotten at Oshman's. No big deal. But you know what? It is kind of a big deal if every decision you make is that way. If you spend your entire life that way, or much of it. And I did. For at least the first 35 years of my life, and for a great deal of time afterwards, and still I tend to do today, I am too smart for my own good. I do not listen to my intuition, or at least I didn't for a great period of my life. I did not follow and see any sense to signs and synchronicities. I didn't think they were meaningful. I did not ask others for help who might be able to help me. And I certainly did not, and all this is actually the same thing, I did not ask God for any help. God, what should I do to get a sleeping bag? I just did it all on my own. I figured everything out in my little brain. I used my logic and my reason, what I thought I knew, through hard work, determination, perseverance. You know, I achieved what I wanted to get out of life. And I'll tell you what, to a degree, I was successful, at least by the world standards. Doing it all on my own, you know, I was able to, by the time of 35, be building my third custom home. I had a luxury vehicle. I had a very high salary. So by the world standards, I was a success. But I was still too smart for my own good. All I had really done was accumulate goods, but not good. I was not experiencing the good of peace. I was not experiencing the good of joy. I was not experiencing the good of fulfillment and satisfaction. Instead, All I was experiencing was constant tension, anxiety, fear, and frustration, trying to figure it all out and make it all happen the way I thought I needed to do. I was really too smart for my own good. Finally, I got to a point in my mid-30s, without going to a long story or details about this, I was just kind of forced to surrender. Life got really too difficult for me. Have you ever heard this expression? I like it. It says, your best thinking got you where you are today. My best thinking had gotten me into a place that I was not happy with by the time I was 35. I was really pretty miserable and making everybody else miserable as well. So what happened during that period, I was introduced to the concept of actually letting go and letting God. You'd think I would have known something about that, but I really didn't. I mean, I'd heard it, but I just didn't know that I was holding on to anything. But it got to a point where I did begin to let go and let God. Things got difficult enough that I began to not control everything, to kind of surrender, to give up, and say, you know what, God? I would say it kind of facetiously, like, you handle it. This is too much for me. But even with that kind of attitude, hey, it still worked. I really was willing not to do things, not to think things, not to figure out stuff, not to force things, not to resist things, just whatever, God. And it worked. I began to experience miracles right and left. It's kind of like I got out of the way, and the minute I got out of the way, I began to get my way. Now, things would happen maybe not in the way that I planned or the way that I expected, but things would happen certainly in a way that was to my benefit and the benefit to all involved. You know, I let go, and I experienced more success with a whole lot less stress. I experienced things effortlessly. The way I like to put it, I let go, and I experienced the miracle of the divine flow. The divine flow. Now, I define the divine flow as an underlying current in your life that is continually guiding you towards the effortless fulfillment of your heart's desires. An underlying current that is continually guiding you towards the effortless fulfillment of your heart's desires. Now, the word guiding is very important there, because that's how the flow really works. We get guidance from God. We are constantly being guided by God through our own intuition, through the intuitive wisdom of others, through signs and synchronicities. Our job is to pay attention to that, to recognize and then cooperate with the guidance that we are receiving, rather than what we do most of the time, or what I've done a lot of the time, blocking and restricting my awareness of that flow. All the ways that we block and restrict our awareness of the flow, they're mostly in my book, not all of them, but we will be discussing in depth those things during my seminars. But for today, I just want to zero in on one main principle for living life in the divine flow and fulfilling your heart's desires effortlessly. And that is, if you want to live your life in the divine flow, you need to let go of what you think you know. Let go of what you think you know. But you know, we don't know anything. We just think we know stuff. We don't know a whole lot with a capital K. We just think we know stuff. You know, you go around saying things like, well, I know this about him, I know that about her, I know this is the way that goes, I know what this means. Is that real, reliable information? Or is it just a bunch of misinformation? If you really get honest about what you definitely know, you'll see that a lot of it is rumors, assumptions, half-truths, out-and-out falsehoods, inaccurate information, incomplete conclusions. But we take that as what we know, and we don't think too much more about it, and we act on that, and we make decisions based on that. And it can be to our detriment. It can interfere with your ability to fulfill your heart's desires. I'm going to give you a little story about this. This is a story about Judy, our own chaplain, Judy Rains. Judy is the poster girl for living life with the divine flow, but not always. This story, she doesn't come out looking too good. Neither do I. But in the end, I've got another story at the end of the talk today. She comes out smelling like a rose. So this story is like this. One day, Judy came up to me and said, Steve, you know, I'm doing okay with the income I'm receiving from my job, but it's not a very fulfilling job. And, you know, I feel like I should be doing something else in my life, but I just don't know what it is. I said, well, Judy, you know, the advice that I follow and that most people follow, and that's the only suggestion I have for you, is, you know, what brings you bliss? What brings you joy? What is it that you enjoy doing where you have endless energy for and you lose all track of time? That might be a good thing to concentrate on. That might end up being a career for you where you never get tired of doing it, and you get paid for doing it. And she looked at me and said, well, you know what I really like doing? Making scrapbooks. I make scrapbooks for me. I make scrapbooks for my family. I've got planned a scrapbook for your Sunday school class. I'd like to make a scrapbook for the church. And then Judy said, but I know there's no money in that. I know there's no money in that. And at the time, I didn't say this to her. I didn't want to rain on her parade, but I was thinking, yeah, you're right. There is no money in that. Were we right? This was before the first scrapbook center opened in these strip malls. Some ladies who were not too smart for their own good, who did not know there was no money in that, just took whatever next right step was in front of them, asked a question, asked how much it cost to rent a little facility, bought a few supplies, and established a giant scrapbooking industry that swept the country, and a lot of people made a lot of money doing that. But Judy and myself, actually, and we were too smart for our own good. We needed to let go of what we thought we knew about this fact that scrapbooking does not equal money. We didn't know that, but we thought we did. There's kind of like 4 categories that I'm going to talk about here of things we need to let go of. Here's the second one. You need to let go of what you think lies ahead. You need to let go of what you think is actually down the stream for you in terms of your desire. Isn't it common that a lot of us say, well, I'd really like to do this, but first I'd probably have to do that. Then it would entail this. These people would have to get involved. I'd have to file these papers. I'd have to form a company. Ooh, overwhelming. It's overwhelming. We look down the road. We think we know what has to happen, and we get so overwhelmed by it, we don't even take the first step in that direction. We don't even take the first step. Now, Judy, here's Judy again. Judy's a great example. Judy came out, and I didn't know this. I actually added this in the book, Judy, after you mentioned this to me. I'd already written that section and gone on. And you said, Steve, that's not my problem. I said, it isn't? She said, no, my problem is that I think I do need to know all the stuff that lies ahead, and I really don't know what they are, so I'm not acting. She thought she had to know what it was, didn't know what it was, needed to know, and so she didn't do anything towards her dreams either. The point I'm getting to is this. You know, if you want to plan, that's great. I personally am a great planner. I plan everything today. This is how I think things are going to lay out. This is what I want to do. It gives me the courage and the confidence to just take the first step. But I've learned then to completely let go of that plan. I do not remain rigidly attached to that plan and force it to happen. And you know why? Because that plan is worthless after a day or a week or even a few moments. Everything is shifting and changing constantly in this world, in the guidance that you get in the divine flow based on your free will. You have free will to choose this and not choose that. You have the free will to follow God's guidance or not follow God's guidance. The way I see it is this way. At any given moment, each of us is receiving through intuition, signs, synchronicities, other people, or all the above, the next right step to take towards the fulfillment of your dreams. Some of us will take that divinely guided step perfectly. Others will veer off a little bit to the side. Others will be in fear or resistant so much, will turn and go the other direction altogether. When we do that, God doesn't look at that and say, oh, gee, Judy went the wrong direction. Now you're stuck in that tributary, Judy. I'm sorry, I can't help you now. You went the wrong way. I don't think that's the way it works at all. Divine mind, divine intelligence, God just looks at all the decisions we've made and the actions that we've taken and says, okay, guys and gals, now, based on what you all just decided to do or not do, what steps you took or did not take, here's the next right step for you all. And for some of you, it'll be completely different than I would have told you a minute ago or a week ago or a year ago. The flow, the future, the plans, they're constantly changing based on our free will. So don't be so dead sure that it's got to be this way. You really don't know that. And it probably is not that way. And it's just really debilitating to think it's going to be that way and then to not take that first step. And that's all you ever have to do. You're given one step at a time. Just take that one. Then you'll get a new step. Then you'll get a new step. So let go of things you consider to be facts or information. Let go of your predictions about the future. Here's a good one. Let go of your judgments about situations. Let go of your judgments about what happens along the way as you're going somewhere. Don't we take our judgments about things? Oh, this is good, this is bad, or I'm indifferent about this, and consider that a fact? Oh, this is bad. I know this is bad. Is it? Really? Haven't you ever had something bad turn out to be a blessing in disguise? Something you thought wasn't so good turned out to be a real blessing in the end. I'm not saying that everything in your path and everything that occurs is a blessing. I'm just saying to consider for a moment there is a possibility that it is. Now, in the biggest metaphysical sense of the word, and that would be a whole discussion I choose not to get into. Nothing is either good or bad, it just is. We make judgments about things. But when we do make a judgment about something, that judgment usually comes from our own personal history and belief system. Your personal history and belief system, which is not the same as another person's. You know, what you consider not so good for you is highly biased and highly subjective. And I'm just suggesting to you to slow down a little bit about your hasty judgments and consider that just might be your own personal view of something, and it might be okay. I'll give you a little example of that. It's in my book. It's actually the very first story in the book, and it's the first time I consciously decided to roll with the flow, as I say. Here's the occasion, and this is just another little daily life story, which is what I deal with mostly, because I think 99% of life is just getting through the day pleasantly and prosperously and peacefully, not about giant miracles, and this is a little miracle. I needed to be at work at 9 o'clock one day. I needed to be there right at 9 because there was a man that needed to give me some information, and I needed to give him some information so we could both complete our tasks. Now, this was in the dark ages of business, when there was no cell phones and no internet. We physically had to meet up and say, here you go, and he was getting on a plane. And that's why I had to be there at 9. He said he was in a meeting up till 9, so we couldn't meet, and at 9, he would be rushing down the elevator and out the building so he could catch his plane. 9 o'clock was the time I needed to be at his door, within a minute, so that we could exchange this information. Well, that day, I'm sitting on LBJ, trying to get to Irving, and it's the usual traffic jam. So I'm just stuck. I'm sitting stuck in this traffic. Now, I'm thinking, I'm going to miss this meeting. I am going to miss this meeting. And then I decided, you know what? They say let go and let God. Go with the flow. This is a very slow flow, but, you know, hey, maybe I'll get there on time. I didn't really think so. I mean, I was way far away, and I didn't think I was going to do it in 15 minutes, but I gave it the benefit of the doubt. But here's what I really did. I realized that what my tendency to do at that moment, what I wanted to do, was take control of the situation, to edge my way out of traffic and to race through the residential streets, knocking school children right and left, you know, getting a ticket or having a flat tire or whatever to get there on time. And I have done those kind of things, except for the school children part. But I've gotten flats and I have gotten tickets trying to control the situation. I knew right then, so you know what, Steve, that's forcing it. There's the next right step, and there's moving over into manipulation and control, and I don't like the flow of this traffic. I don't prefer this, but I know it's beyond my doing to control this. Let me just assume it's going to be okay and sit here, which I did. Slowly moved my way to work, and I got there at 9:15, 15 minutes late. Now, I was not happy about that. I just said, well, I went with the flow, 9:15. Guess I missed this guy's appointment. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I was really worried. What am I going to do? How are we going to complete our tasks? Push the button for the elevator. It's a high-rise. Elevator door opens. He's standing right there. He says, man, my meeting went late, and now I'm later than ever. I've got to get to the airport, but here's your information. I said, and here's yours. And he rushed out the building, and I got on the elevator and went up. As I look back at that little story, I thought, wow, you know, I was in the right place at the right time, the perfect right time and right place. 1 minute sooner, I would have been going up an elevator, and he would have been going down. I would have never have seen him. 1 minute later, he would have been out the door and into his car, and I would have missed him. But it was perfect. It was perfect. Now, was the traffic a bad thing? Hardly. The traffic made everything work out fine. I needed to let go of that judgment and be a little more peaceful than I was. Here's the last thing I want to get to. And this is an important one. When I told that story, I had a specific desire in mind, and I got there. I got right where I wanted to go, right, and everything worked out perfectly. That does not always happen in life, does it? You have a desire in mind, and you end up somewhere else, kind of. Why is that? Why don't we always get what we want? Well, in my definition, I said that the divine flow guides you to the effortless fulfillment of your heart's desire. I didn't just say the word desire. There's a reason for that. There's a lot of things we think we want in our head that are very specific. It's specific about money, a specific job, a car, or house. But those things are just symbols for what your heart desires. Your heart is your spirit. It desires an experience of life. It just wants to experience the qualities of God that it is that you are. It just wants to be in this life to experience freedom, or comfort, or joy, or abundance. Here's my last story. This is again about Judy. This is about the time that Judy had a specific desire in mind. But she went with the flow. She was a poster girl for rolling with the flow, had really learned her lessons, and it all worked out beautifully. Judy came to me once and said, Steve, I have not worked for a couple of months, and I need to pay my rent, and I'm worried about how I'm going to do that, and there's this job that I could take. It's really an old job I could go back to, and if I do things just right, kind of manipulate or force or demand, I think I could get the job back and do that. But I knew that she wasn't very satisfied with that kind of work, and so I said, well, it sounds a little bit like forcing things to me, but I don't know, go with the flow and see how it works and take it easy one step at a time. And when she came back to me later, she had a remarkable story. She said, you know what, I went with the flow, and I did not take that job, and one thing happened after another, and I wound up cleaning rooms in a bed and breakfast facility here in Dallas. I said, okay. And she said, I really like that. Actually, it is physically taxing to a degree, but I like cleaning, and I like doing that, and it's really not that hard a job, and I'm getting well paid for it. But, she said, something happened that was unusual. I said, what's that? She said, well, I thought it was the flow, and I'd moved into that position, and everything was great. But then the owner came up to me and said, Judy, I don't want you to do that anymore. I'm going to be cleaning the rooms from now on. I don't want to pay you for cleaning the rooms. And Judy's thinking, well, what kind of flow is this? First, I get a great job, then they pull it out from under me. I don't understand what's going on. And then she told me the rest of the story. She was thinking that, what's going on? I don't like this. About ready to judge it. When the bed and breakfast owner went on to say, Judy, no, it's true. I do not want you to clean these apartments. But I just want you to, if you will, live here. If you will just live here, that will really be a great benefit to me. And Judy's thinking, well, how much would I have to pay for rent? And I have no job. She said, no, you misunderstand me. You don't have to pay for rent. I want you to live here for free. See, I don't live on the premises. So if you will just live here, I will have the satisfaction of knowing that if something happens late at night, you can maybe take care of it, or emergency or something. It's never really happened, but, it'd be a great blessing to me. Judy's thinking, well, do I have to be here every night? No, just live your life. Some nights you're here, some nights you're not. Sometimes you're on vacation. It's no big deal. I'm comforted to know that overall, there's somebody around. That's your job. And Judy said, and during the day? Lady said, during the day, you can do whatever you want. Take a job, make money, whatever. So Judy ended up, instead of taking a job, actually going with the flow and having all these multiple streams of income come to her through various sources, and not one penny of that had to go towards rent. Plus she got free TiVo and other stuff. Free stuff. That is abundance, my friends. That was the heart's desire, was just to experience abundance. She went with the flow. No, she didn't force to get that job and that specific amount of money. She rode with the flow. She let go of what she thought she knew. She followed some other principles involved with living life in divine flow, and she got an experience of abundance. An experience of abundance. So are you too smart for your own good? Are you too smart for your own good? If you want to live your life in the divine flow, and if you want to fulfill your heart's desires effortlessly, let go of what you think you know. Stop forcing things to go the way you think they should go. Stop resisting the flow because you think you know better. And begin to be open and receptive to God's guidance. Recognize that guidance, follow it, even if it seems to be leading you somewhere that you don't particularly think is best. Because you just never know. You never know. Thank you.